When the movie Belly dropped, it was a cultural earthquake, shaking the foundation of cinema with the raw power of hip-hop giants like Nas and DMX. But listen closely to the echoes from that gritty world, and you hear a different kind of thunder. You hear the voice of Louis Rankin, the man who played Lenox, the notorious Ox, and who many believe truly stole the show from those established stars. Louis Rankin wasn't just acting. For him, the line between the script and the streets was razor thin. He carried the undisputed title of the original Jamaican Don Dada, not just on a record cover, but in the brutal reality of his life. He was a reggae dancehall legend who transcended music only to be defined by his deadliest role. His journey was a masterpiece of talent, a Grammy-winning run that led straight to the brightest lights of Hollywood. Yet this story, this profound legacy of the original Jamaican Don Dada, ended in tragedy, a sudden, violent curve on the highway just before his greatest return. We have to ask, was his destiny always set, or could the legend of Louis Rankin have found a different end? The rhythm that drove the man we know as Louie Rankin started not in a polished studio, but in the gritty heartbeat of Jamaica. His birth name was Leonard Ford, and he came into this world in 1953 in the serene St. Thomas Parish. However, the tough lessons were learned in Rockfort, Kingston, where he was raised as one of 7 children. From his mother, he inherited the simple, lasting nickname, Louie. By the time he turned 9, a fierce passion took hold of him. It was a dual devotion, for music and for the Western movies he watched religiously. He wasn't drawn to the cowboys, but to the promise of big guns. This fascination with power and performance quickly translated to the local stages. As a teenager, he grew popular in the neighborhood, performing at school and local events. The islands could not hold his ambition, and like so many before him, he followed the sound of opportunity, first moving to Canada and then settling in Brooklyn, New York. It was in the vibrant, competitive clubs of Brooklyn that he truly began to carve out his identity, freestyling and DJing. His name started buzzing, becoming instantly recognizable on the streets. In 1983, the world got its first taste of the original Jamaican Don Dada with his debut song, Up and Down. This milestone brought him into the orbit of Claypot Records, a label owned by Vivian Blake, a name inextricably linked to the dark side of the streets, a notorious Jamaican drug kingpin and leader of the infamous Shower Posse. The song was also featured on the Tidal Wave Reggae Dancehall compilation that year. The music was authentic because the life was real. In interviews, Louis Rankin made a chilling confession that validated the intensity he brought to every performance. He claimed to have beaten 3 separate murder charges in his life. Furthermore, he admitted to having been charged for the distribution of cocaine and heroin. The man who played a gangster on screen earned the title Original Jamaican Don Dada through a brutal survival off-screen. It was this unnerving blend of artistry and authenticity that would later captivate Hollywood. In 1992, he signed a major deal with Mesa/Warner Brothers Records. His full debut album, Showdown, gave rise to the massive hit single, Typewriter, which soared to #1 on the charts. Louis said the inspiration for the song was a special gun in Jamaica, whose firing sequence sounded exactly like a typewriter. This moment of triumph cemented the legend of Louis Rankin, earning him a Grammy Award for the song Typewriter off the Showdown album. He stated he made approximately $1.6 million during this period. The following year, in 1993, he released his second album, Lethal Weapon. This success established him as a premier reggae dancehall legend, alongside contemporaries like Shabba Ranks, Supercat, and Buju Banton. He was soaring, but his journey was about to take a dramatic turn from the sound system to the silver screen, a transition that would define and ultimately overshadow his entire life. The seismic shift in Louis Rankin's career began in 1998, ushering in the era of his cinematic immortality. He was performing at a show in Queens, New York, when he received word that one of the greatest video directors of all time, Hype Williams, wanted an introduction. Hype Williams was searching for the embodiment of the Black Scarface for his movie Belly. The meeting was so impactful that Louis didn't even have to audition. Williams simply saw the original Jamaican Don Dada and knew he had found his star. At first, Williams wanted the character name to be Brad, but Louis immediately dismissed it, asserting that ain't no gangster named Brad. It was DMX who stepped in and provided the unforgettable moniker. Lenox quickly shortened to Ox. This was the birth of Lenox Ox Belly, a character so authentic that it eclipsed the fame of the film's main stars, Nas and DMX. Louis stated that when he arrived on set, the entire A-list cast, Method Man, DMX, Nas, T-Boz, was present. He was the final piece of the puzzle. Williams' direction for Louis was simple yet profound. Be yourself. This guidance led to one of the most shocking revelations about the production of Belly. There was no prop cannabis on set. Every scene featuring the characters smoking involved real marijuana. More astonishingly, the guns were also reportedly real. The raw authenticity that Louis Rankin brought to his role as Ox drew immediate attention from law enforcement. The original Jamaican Don Dada's skill with the AK-47 on screen was so convincing that federal agents reportedly visited the set. They questioned him directly, demanding to know how he had acquired such mastery of the weapon. For the audience, this scene was riveting. For the man who had already faced 3 murder charges in real life, it was simply Tuesday. Not everyone in the American mainstream celebrated the film's gritty realism. Basketball Hall of Famer Magic Johnson notably refused to screen Belly in his chain of movie theaters across the country. He argued that the film, along with others like Booty Call and Money Talks, contained too much violence and negative depictions of African Americans. This corporate rejection highlighted the delicate tightrope walk for black celebrities in Hollywood. Success was acceptable, but the raw, unpolished truth of the streets was often deemed too dangerous for mass consumption. Despite the controversies, Louis Rankin was hot. He was immediately considered for the Steven Seagal film Exit Wounds. However, the Reggae Dancehall Legend rejected the opportunity after a heated argument with Seagal. Louis called out Seagal for the perceived disrespect and mistreatment of Jamaicans in Seagal's earlier film, Marked for Death. This principled stand cost him the role, which was then given to DMX. A few years later, Louis delivered another classic performance in the 2002 film Showdown. His portrayal of Teddy Brookshot instantly solidified his status as a cinematic legend in the genre. Although Showdown was initially never released in theaters and became a phenomenon through heavy street bootlegging for 5 years, it eventually went on to earn millions. Louis even claimed credit for helping DJ Khaled secure a role in the film. The characters of Lenox Oxbelly and Teddy Brookshot became forever stamped in the popular culture. The success was undeniable, but the shadows of his past were closing in on the Louis Rankin phenomenon. The tragic passing of Louis Rankin at 66, the beloved Lenox Oxbelly, exposed the precarious financial tightrope many artists walk, especially those whose roots are steeped in the street culture they portray. Just before his death, Louis had reportedly spent a large portion of his savings funding his upcoming album, The Return of the Don Dada. The immediate aftermath was heartbreakingly complicated. His common-law wife and manager, Jules Chaotic, who was also the mother of his 3 daughters, was forced to create a GoFundMe page to cover funeral expenses and secure their children's future. This public appeal for help for a Grammy-winning artist and cinematic icon starkly contrasted with the millions he had earned during his peak as the original Jamaican Don Dada. Compounding the tragedy was the devastating legal reality of his death. Louis had secured a $100,000 accidental death insurance policy. However, the terms of such policies are almost always voided if the insured dies while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. A cruel clause that materialized when his toxicology report confirmed he was 3 times over the legal alcohol limit. The financial safety net he thought he had laid for his family vanished, a devastating financial blow linked directly to his battle with addiction. Further distressing his manager was the subsequent conflict with Louis Rankin's family over the proceeds from the GoFundMe campaign. Jules Chaotic was forced to take the page down due to these issues. The private struggles of the Reggae Dancehall Legend became a very public, painful family dispute over an unpaid debt. For the American and global audience, the story of Louis Rankin is a final, sobering chapter in the narrative of black celebrity. He was a pioneer who brought genuine dancehall culture to the mainstream, yet his death, attributed to a DUI, was viewed by some through the same negative lens that critics like Magic Johnson had used to condemn Belly decades earlier. The story of Lenox Ox Belly serves as a profound, tragic celebrity story, a relentless warning about the thin veil between authentic street art and the self-destruction that can accompany it. Jamaican Don Dada, the Grammy winner, and the unforgettable Lenox Ox Belly is far more complex than the tragic headlines of his final day. He was a reggae dancehall legend who, at his peak, was powerful enough to walk onto a Hollywood set without an audition and steal the movie from bona fide superstars. His work, from the raw energy of Typewriter to the menacing calm of Ox, provided an authentic, unfiltered glimpse into a world that the polished mainstream often refused to acknowledge. His greatest achievement was arguably his authenticity. He showed the world the real price of the life he sang about and portrayed. His rejection of Steven Seagal's movie over principle and his courage to call out the hypocrisy of figures like Jay-Z solidified his role as an uncompromising voice. Ultimately, the self-destructive forces he had battled for decades, the love for rum, the struggle with alcohol abuse, claimed him when the real-life dangers of the streets could not. The tragedy is not just that the original Jamaican Don Dada died, but that he died pursuing a new chapter, leaving behind an unpublished album and an invalidated insurance policy because he was under the influence. The financial and emotional fallout suffered by his family, especially his daughters, is a sobering reminder that the fantasy of the gangster life on screen comes with heavy, real-world consequences. We remember Louie Rankin not only for his talent, but for his truth. He did not seek to clean up his image. He forced the world to accept him as he was. His story is a poignant, tragic celebrity story that reminds us that sometimes the greatest challenge a star faces is surviving their own success. The legacy of the reggae dancehall legend lives on in the music and in the cinematic echoes of the streets. If the story of Lenox Ox Belly reminds you of the genius or struggle of any other artist, share their name below. We read every comment. Thank you for watching this tribute to the original Jamaican Don Dada. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to honor the real stories of the legends.